Role of a site reliability engineer came about somewhere around 2003.
So how is this SRE role actually differs from DevOps or production support?
When you take the philosophy of DevOps and implement it with an engineering mindset, that is SRE.
Programming, operating system, CI/CD tools.
The development teams always wanted to ship more features, whereas the operations team wanted to ensure better reliability of the services that were already in production.
This role is for freshers or experienced person. Hello everyone, welcome to Beyond JD, the podcast where we uncover the real stories behind roles, growth and hiring. Today we are going to talk about an interesting role. The role that makes sure users can access the software application seamlessly without experiencing any downtime. This role ensures system performs efficiently even during heavy traffic and any unexpected challenges. Yes, it's site reliability engineer. Today let's break down and understand the role better. To share the practical insights, we have a very special guest, Ratnakant Jaiprakash, the Site Reliability Engineering Head at CAMS. He brings out 25 years of experience as engineer in IT field, and he has also worked in most of the reputed organizations such as Verizon, Cisco, HCL and Freshworks. Welcome Ratnakant.
Thank you, Soumya, for having me on the show.
Yeah, very glad to host you here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Same here. Yeah.
So before getting into the role questions, can you tell a bit about your career journey so far?
Sure, Soumya.
Yeah.
So I started off as a engineer working in a telecom domain project, which involved IVR and telephony systems, and then I moved into a role where I was working on very early mobile phones by a popular mobile phone company, and then I transitioned into operational support system software for telecom companies, and that's where I made a pivot into embedded systems because I really was fascinated by how a device works internally. And I was in the embedded system world for nearly 12, 13 years,
Nice.
where I learned a lot about software engineering, development, building reliable, robust systems. And my break into the reliability engineering world came in when I joined Freshworks about 5.5 years back, where I was given an opportunity to lead a database reliability engineering team. And after spending about 4.5 years at Freshworks, I have joined CAMS, where I head the SRE team, which is a broader uh, gamut of things than just the database reliability engineering. We are responsible for the entire service reliability engineering for the services being built by CAMS.
So, site reliability engineer.
Mhm.
The term itself is very interesting. So, what is this role is all about? Can you explain its responsibilities in simpler terms?
Okay, so the role of a site reliability engineer came about somewhere around 2003,
Okay.
and it was actually a term coined by a VP of engineering in Google. His name is Benjamin Traylor Sloss, and he was constantly seeing a struggle and tussle between the development team and the operations team. So this led him to think there could be a better way to do this, right? The development teams always wanted to ship more features, whereas the operations team wanted to ensure better reliability of the services that were already in production, right? So, what Benjamin Traylor Sloss did was he introduced a concept called error budget.
Okay.
This concept of error budget means any system or service that is already in production can have some amount of unavailability, or we can say in other terms downtime.
Okay.
This could be in the order of 0.1%, 0.01%, 0.001%, and so on. And he said, I'm going to form a team where the software engineers are going to design operations. So he came up with this idea where it's not going to be a simple or pure operational support team where they just try to fix issues on the go whenever they occur, but he formed a team which will proactively look out for issues, and they will expect issues to occur, and they will act accordingly and build the system in a robust manner, which will be resilient, robust, and highly available.
Okay.
Right? If you want me to explain the role of a site reliability engineer in very simple terms, the site reliability engineer is responsible for the overall reliability and uptime of any service which they are monitoring.
Mm.
Right?
Mm.
So they will work closely with the development teams as well as several other teams in a horizontal fashion, and they will ensure that the system is built with a lot of resilience from the ground up.
Okay.
Right? And they will also ensure that during production the system or the service runs reliably without busting their error budget too often. So when a service continues or when a service routinely busts their error budget, they will go back to the development team and say, hey, this is not going properly, so please take a step back, stop your development work, now go and fix your bugs so that the error budgets are not blown. We can delve into it deeper. Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Okay.
perfect. So I'm on hearing the explanation, right? I'm just remembering uh, recently we had mega sales, right? Great Indian Festival sales by
Correct.
Amazon
Correct.
or Big Billion sales by Flipkart.
Yes.
So at those times, there will be millions of users who's
True.
accessing the site at the same
True.
time.
True.
So the site should be accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
So even a 5 minutes of downtime can have a severe impact on the business loss,
Right.
right, in terms of sales.
Right.
So I can sense the impact of this role.
Yes.
So I guess this is the problem which this role is solving.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So basically, the SRE team ensures that all your favorite applications or websites are up and running always,
Okay.
even when millions or billions of people are trying to access it at the same time. Like you rightly called out the big billion days or something like that. So my boss,
Okay.
he defines this role as the guardians of the system or the
Nice.
guardians
Okay.
of the service,
Ha,
right?
ha, ha.
So we are there to ensure that the systems are up and running. We automate boring stuff, and we also plan for failures,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So when a system that routinely sees, say, 1 lakh users per hour, if on a big billion day, it is going to see traffic spike of 10x, say 10 lakh users per hour, then we'll have to plan much ahead for it, right? So we will coordinate with the infrastructure team, with the development team. We will ensure that the performance testings have been done to support such kind of a load on the system, right? And we will ensure that the systems are scaled up to meet the requirements of a huge event like a big billion day sale. Routinely, what happens is the SRE team will also interact with the product team, because the product managers are the ones who know what will be the traffic spike that is expected, because
Okay.
they usually work with the sales teams and some in some companies some direct customers also, and then they come up with the estimation of the traffic spike that is expected. And as SRE engineers, we are responsible to ensure that the system is scaled up beforehand or is ready to scale up on a short notice and ready to scale up automatically when the load increases. Right?
Okay.
So that is what the role of an SRE engineer, or that is where the SRE engineer becomes very critical in the operations part or the production support part of any system or service.
Nice. Okay. So as you explained, I get two roles which are similar to this. Like to ensure the system is up and running, we have production support team. Also, I guess SRE is an intersection of development as well as production operations.
Right.
So DevOps comes into picture.
You're right.
So how is this SRE role actually differs from DevOps or production support?
Sure. So SRE work closely with DevOps engineers.
Okay.
So the production support team is not really existing anymore. It is the NOC team. There will be a team called the Network Operations Control Support Center team. So the NOC team and the SRE team will work very closely together. The NOC team will be monitoring the services 24/7, and the SRE team will jump in whenever there are issues that cannot be solved by the NOC team with standard operating procedures that we would already give them.
NOC team.
NOC team.
NOC.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. So the DevOps team will ensure that the programs that get into production or the systems that get into production go through a proper CI/CD cycle or a
Okay.
CI/CD path, which is basically a continuous integration and continuous deployment path,
Okay.
where they run several predetermined steps, right? So they will ensure that it is properly tested, whether it is secure, whether there are no vulnerabilities in the software stack that is being built, and then they will also deploy the image in production, right? So sometimes the SRE teams will also do production deployments. It depends, it varies from company to company. So what happens is when you take the philosophy of DevOps and implement it with an engineering mindset, that is SRE, right?
Okay.
So DevOps generally that is defined as a philosophy, whereas SRE is how it is implemented.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I guess one should know about the software development lifecycle to understand much better.
True.
So, can you explain about this software development lifecycle and where does exactly this SRE fits into which process, which stage?
Right.
Yeah.
So SRE teams will usually start engaging with development teams right from the BRD stage itself. Right. So we will be part of discussions where the product engineering team, the product manager will come and explain the requirements of the product to the development team or the architects, so that we will have a strong understanding of what the use cases will be for an application or a service that is going into production. At that time itself, we will try to estimate what kind of backups are required, how much of spend or how much we can afford to spend or how much we need to spend for disaster recovery and availability of the system. We will discuss with the product managers to understand their perspective of how much availability is required, whether it is 99.9, which is called 3 nines, or 4 nines, 99.99%, or even more, 5 nines. We will also try to gather data about the RTO and RPO numbers. RTO is recovery time objective, and RPO is recovery point objective. So it determines how much time the system can be down in case of a major catastrophic failure,
Okay.
and how much data we can afford to lose in case of a major failure of the say this infrastructure or application. That is called RPO. So till which point in the database we can go back and recover all data. So that is
Okay.
RPO. So all these information will be put together by the product team in the BRD document that will be given to the development teams. So once the development team, the architects start engineering the product, we will be part of the engineering reviews,
Okay.
the architecture reviews or the design reviews to some extent, to understand and ensure that sufficient safeguards for reliability and uptime are already baked into the system right from the start, right? Baked into the architecture itself
Okay.
from the start,
Okay.
right? And we will also advise on some architectural decisions and design decisions to the architects, if applicable, that which will make the system robust or better. And we will also be working closely with the QA teams,
Okay.
where we will ensure that sufficient performance testing is done on the service that is being built before it is handed off to production deployment.
Okay.
So there should be a robust testing mechanism and platform that will ensure that the system works reliably to a expected load. If the product management team says in the BRD that we expect a peak load of like say 10,000 users per minute, then we will ensure that the QA team tests for that load. So we will also work with the QA team. And finally, we will also work with the security team to ensure all their security best practices are applied, there are no vulnerabilities and all that. And of course, we will collaborate heavily with the DevOps team. And we will also ensure at the same time that the observability plane is built for the service. And it should be ready and tested in non-production environment itself so that it can be directly move to production environment, so that when by the time the system goes live, all the observability should be in place. When I say observability, all the metrics,
Okay.
traces, logging, that will help people to debug in case of an issue.
Okay.
And it also includes alerting,
Okay.
right? So in case something goes down, so we will set thresholds. For example, a CPU, if it goes the CPU utilization goes beyond 70%, then send an alert to these teams. So
Okay.
it could be a phone call, it could be a chat message, and things like that. So we will be involved in almost every step of the SDLC process.
End to end, from start to beginning, your part SRE
Yes,
role is
we will
part of
be
every
involved,
step.
and we will take responsibility and accountability of the system post production.
Okay.
Once it goes live,
Okay.
we will be entirely responsible and accountable for the reliability of the system.
Got it. So we have used this term reliability, right,
Yes.
many times. So what is this reliability means? Reliable. Can you just simplify the term? And how do you, what practical strategies you do to ensure this reliability? What frameworks you use?
Reliability means
Mm-hmm.
how much is the availability of a system in a given month or a year without any performance downgrade.
Okay.
It should be performant, that is it should be able to handle all your user requests in an appropriate fashion within the given SLA, SLO, and SLIs. And it should also be highly available, that is it should be up and running, and it should be usable by the customers. So that is
Okay.
called as reliability of a
Okay.
system. And it should also be able to withstand failures. When I say it should be able to withstand failures, say if a server goes down, or if the network goes down, if a database crashes, what will happen to the system? Will it still be able to serve traffic? Will it still be able to have a graceful shutdown? Will it still be able to come up with minimal disruption or loss of data? So that is called as reliability.
Okay.
So if I'm going to say my system shut down today at 1 o'clock, but I lost data for the last 24 hours, that is a very poor design of a system. It's not a reliable system.
Okay. Okay.
But if I can say my system or my database crashed at 1 o'clock today, but I have all the data right up till 12:59 p.m., then it means it's a fairly reliable system.
Okay.
But in case of a financial sector, right, say your banking systems, every second, every millisecond counts. Your system should be up and running, or it should be able to revert back all transactions right up till the time when the database was available. So that has to be really highly available and reliable. So sufficient backups have to be made, so that your users of the banking system don't lose even 1 rupee of their hard-earned
Got it.
money. Right?
You used specific terms like SLA, SLO.
Yeah.
So what are those?
Okay, SLA, SLO, SLI are concepts that are very unique to the SRE
Okay.
world.
Okay.
So SLI is service level indicator.
Okay.
What is the availability of a system? What is the uptime of a system?
Okay.
So that is the service level indicator. And SLO is service level objective. So SLI will tell you currently what is the state of the system, and SLO will tell you what is the internal objective that we have set for us within the organization to provide as a service to our consumers.
Okay.
It could be end customers, it could be other applications within the organization which are using one particular service. So SLO means, say for example, if I say my SLO is 99.99%, then my goal is to ensure that my system is up and running for 99.99% of the time.
Okay.
And SLA is service level agreement,
Okay.
that we would sign or officially agree with our users of the system,
Okay.
right? So service level agreement means that we are signing off, or we are promising our customers that at the minimum our system will be available for this much amount of time, and it will be able to say serve traffic with only this much latency. Our latency won't increase. And we will, in case of a disaster, we will lose only so much amount of data, not more than that. So all these will be part of service level agreements.
Got it.
And if there is a breach of these service level agreements, there could be penalties.
Okay.
So that is SLA. So that is the most critical part. And the SLO and SLI are something that is more internal to the team, which has to be monitored closely by the team to ensure that the SLA is not breached.
Just curious, how do you handle in case of disasters, like in case of unexpected challenges? How do you ensure the business continuity? In
Right.
camps also we have this BCP planning, like BCP
Yes.
training and all, right?
Yes.
So can you talk a bit about it?
Yes. Business continuity planning should be the part of any company's roadmap to ensure that they maintain a highly reliable and resilient system.
Okay.
And disaster recovery is kind of a subset of this business continuity plan.
Okay.
There could be instances, for example, where, say, whole Chennai got flooded because of from some rains, and where nobody is able to get into office. The data centers also flooded.
Okay.
We're not able to run gensets for more than one day. Then, yeah, the systems are up and running now, but they could go down anytime.
Okay.
We are not sure. We are not able to 100% predict whether we will be able to keep the systems up and running for the next few days. That time, the BCP plan will have to kick in. So we will have to ensure that there is a another set of engineers and servers in a different availability zone. Usually in the cloud domain, we refer to multiple near data centers as availability zones. For example, if there is a data center in Mumbai, there will be 3 availability zones within Mumbai. So we will ensure that there are backups of servers, one in zone A, one in zone B. The primary database could be in zone B, it will be always backing up to zone A, so vice versa, whatever like that, right? And there would also be a set of people who would be stationed there, or they would be flown to some other city to ensure that the business continues. Or sometimes they could be asked to work from home from different cities to ensure that there is minimal disruption to operational support activities. At the same time, disaster recovery or disaster situation is a much worse situation where the entire region of Mumbai or all the availability zones go down.
Okay.
Right? Say we had a major outage in AWS a few days back, right? So that was a sort of a problem which affected the entire region of US East 1 for DynamoDB services for a few hours. And after that, also, there were some cascading effects. So, in such cases, if some of the customers of AWS, if they had their replica of their database in a different region altogether, they could have switched traffic to the other region, and then they would have been able to serve customers. A likely event. It's a possibility. Similarly, in India, we would have disaster recovery region as a Delhi region.
Okay.
So, in case all the servers go down, if there's a huge power cut in, say, Mumbai, there's no power, nobody is able to go to the data center, or there is a huge crash in all availability zones, none of the servers are available, then the disaster recovery plan will kick in. So, constantly, we will also be doing disaster recovery drills. So, whenever we build a new system, we will ensure that a DR plan is in place
Okay.
when we build the system itself, and we will ensure that quarterly once or at least 6 months once a DR drill is conducted where we actually bring down a production service and ensure that the traffic is being served by the DR region database or the servers, which could be brought up in say 1 hour or 2 hours. We would set up some objectives for recovery time, and then we will ensure that the systems are up and running within that time, and we will ensure that the services are able to be up and running within that RTO time.
Okay.
So that is called as a disaster recovery planning.
Nice.
A BCP is a much broader term which covers multiple things.
SREs are accountable for this also.
Yes,
Okay,
Yes. Yeah.
got it.
So we are accountable for that. Why? But we will work closely with the infrastructure team, cloud
Okay.
infrastructure team,
Mm-hmm.
or the architects team also to
Nice.
ensure that the DR plan is baked into the system, even when the system is being readied for production, before it goes to live.
Now I'm going to list a few skill set categories.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to explain why this skill is required
Mm-hmm.
and what tools or technologies one should be aware in that skill set category.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Programming or scripting.
Okay. So a major part or a role of SRE engineers is to do toil reduction, right?
Toil reduction.
Yes.
Okay.
So when I say toil, it means a lot of repetitive manual work.
Okay.
So the SRE engineers have to ensure that the amount of repetitive manual work or effort that is put in by engineers in other teams is down to a minimal amount of time. So the SRE engineers will use languages like Python or Go, to automate such repetitive tasks, which will ensure that they can focus more on innovation and building new stuff rather than doing repeated manual stuff, which could also lead to errors. So
Nice.
that is why programming or scripting is a very important skill for SRE engineers.
Okay. Operating system.
Yes. So when a system has issues, the SRE engineers has to understand what or how the underlying operating system behaves. Whether is it a disk full issue or a memory issue or a network issue, what is causing it, or is some process hogging the uh, performance of another process, or if there is multiple forks of a process which could hamper or bring down the whole system. So there are multiple things like that. So the SRE engineer should have a strong understanding of the operating system concepts, or mostly these days we focus on Linux,
Okay.
right? To so that the SRE engineer will be able to troubleshoot quickly what could be an underlying cause.
Okay.
So that is why they should have a strong foundation on the operating system knowledge.
Nice. Cloud platforms.
Right. So cloud platform is again a very critical component because predominantly most of the modern applications, they run on cloud platforms,
Mm-hmm.
public cloud platforms, and cloud platforms comprise of hundreds of services.
Okay.
AWS has literally hundreds of services. Same with GCP or Azure. So they should have a strong understanding of networking in cloud,
Mm.
of the different services that are available in cloud, how a VPC will behave, how subnets are formed, how they're created, and how an EBS volume will behave, how to scale up databases in cloud, and what will happen if one availability zone goes down. So all this is very critical for an SRE engineer to ensure that the system's uptime is maintained, because
Okay.
all the systems are running on cloud infrastructure. So that
Okay.
is why again cloud becomes a very critical piece.
CI/CD tools.
Okay, CI/CD tools are usually tools like Jenkins or GitHub Actions
Mm-hmm.
or GitLab runners and things like that, and they are usually maintained by the DevOps teams.
Okay.
But SRE teams can come into picture when they need to deploy applications into production, right?
Okay.
So SRE teams or SRE engineers should be aware of the DevOps practices and the various steps involved in the CI/CD pipeline, so that they can jump in and fix issues if there are some issues during deployment in production.
Okay.
So that is the reason they have to be aware about CI/CD tools.
Okay. To troubleshoot the deployment issues.
Correct.
Okay. Monitoring and observability.
This is one of the most critical pieces, or an arsenal in the hand of a SRE engineer,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what will give them a real-time status of the services that are running in cloud or in their self-hosted
Oh,
platforms or
like
whatever.
a dashboard.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
So observability means they get a complete picture of the entire service, the health of the systems,
Mm-hmm.
the latency with which the services or requests are being served,
Okay.
the availability of the system for the last 24 hours, 7 days, even 1 month. All that can be fetched from the observability platforms. The dashboards will also be able to tell them when traffic usually peaks during a day
Okay.
or during a week, when can some maintenance windows be taken up. So that's a very, very critical piece for the observability engineers. And the SRE engineers themselves are also responsible for building the dashboards and observability platform that will help them in the long run. And alerting also is a part of this observability plane where they have tools that will alert through a mobile phone call or a pager service, or in those olden days, or through email alerts or Slack or Teams alerts and things like that.
Okay.
So on-call engineers should immediately jump into the system to check what is going wrong if they get an alert via a phone call or a Slack message, and then try to resolve issues. So that is where observability and alerting becomes a very critical piece in this whole environment for SRE engineers.
Any specific tools for this one should be aware of?
Yes, there are several observability tools available, both open source as well as commercially off-the-shelf available tools. Like Grafana Prometheus is a very popular open source tool, and there are tools like New Relic, Datadog, Splunk, which are also commercially available, which can be used to monitor the systems.
Incident management.
Incident management is a very critical piece of work that the SRE engineer is required to do whenever there is a problem or an issue in the systems that they monitor.
Okay.
So, when a system goes down, or when a latency spikes, when a system is not able to service requests, or when there are requests piling up, that could be classified as an incident, right? And the SRE engineers has to jump in. They should try to fix the issue. Usually, for known incidents that could occur, there will be a set of playbooks or runbooks which some teams can follow, or the production support teams, the NOC team, can follow to resolve an issue. But when there is an issue where there is no runbook, when it is a new issue, then that could become an incident where it could cause an outage, a complete breakdown of the service, or a low performing or poorly performing service, and that could also be classified as an incident. And the SRE engineers have to come in and they have to figure out what is going wrong, and then they have to try to solve the issue. Sometimes they can also pull in the development teams if there is something that it is beyond their control. And when multiple incidents occur with the same scenario, then that could be classified as a problem, right? So a problem has to be handled in a different way than an incident. So the problem support has to happen in collaboration with multiple teams. They will take it up as a separate activity apart from just resolving an incident. An incident could occur one time and they will try to resolve it within a few minutes or hours at the maximum. But if it occurs repeatedly, that is classified as a problem. So that would be a much larger effort. And SRE teams or SRE engineers will lead that effort to ensure that the problem is resolved once and for all and it doesn't occur again.
Container and orchestration.
Yes. Container orchestration has become a very critical piece of the software stack these days. And rather than a software stack, I could say it is a part of an infrastructure component that ensures that the applications are running smoothly, and even if they fail, there would be backup services or there would be other components that will be able to seamlessly start serving traffic.
Okay.
Kubernetes is one of the most popular orchestration services, and Kubernetes clusters have ensured that even when a server goes down, that there are other servers which will be able to seamlessly serve traffic.
Okay.
It's a huge lifesaver for SRE engineers.
It's like a backup service.
It's not really a backup server.
Okay.
The traffic itself will be already split between multiple servers.
Okay, got it.
I am telling you at a very high level so that it is slightly easy for understand for young engineers who are yet to get knowledge on Kubernetes. So assume like it's something that will be able to serve traffic on multiple servers.
Maybe one request is coming, and based on an algorithm, this request, which server should serve this request?
Right. And also, if there are 100 requests, right, there will be 3-4 servers that could simultaneously serve these 100 requests in 1 second.
Okay.
If there's only one server, it will not be able to serve 100 requests. It could take like 4-5 seconds. But if there are 4 servers, they'll be able to equally distribute the traffic among themselves and serve the request, 100
Okay.
requests.
Got it.
Right? But if once one of these 4 servers goes down, automatically the traffic will be routed to the rest of the 3 servers.
Okay.
And then the container orchestration system would ensure that another service is brought up. So that is called as auto healing.
Oh,
Right?
nice.
So the 4th server, the server that went down would be brought up again. Replacement server would be brought up, and the traffic would again be distributed among all 4 servers equally. Think of
Yes.
it like that way.
Okay. Okay.
Right? I'm explaining at a 10,000
Yeah,
feet
yeah.
level, but that is where the container orchestration really helps. Right? There are multiple strategies to do that, and different organizations employ their own kind of strategies for container orchestration. But it's again a very, very critical piece for SRE engineers to learn and understand in depth
Okay.
for their role as a SRE engineer.
Networking and security.
Networking and security is a piece that will be usually monitored by the security team and the cloud infrastructure team. But the SRE engineers have to have a good understanding
Okay.
and knowledge of especially cloud networking and the security that needs to be baked in. Because whenever there is a security incident, usually the infosec team members will also jump in. But at the same time, even before they jump in, SRE engineers have to be there to ensure that the systems that are running are not affected by a security incident, for example, like DDoS attack, right? So the first point of defense would be the systems that are already in place. So SRE engineers have to work closely with the security team to ensure that the defense mechanisms are already in place before even a system goes live.
Okay.
So it's a kind of a shared responsibility between security team and the SRE team to ensure the security is baked in right from the start, and there will be a very close collaboration between these two teams during security incidents.
Okay. But SRE should have that basic knowledge about these
Correct.
terms.
Yes, absolutely.
So the last one, infrastructure as code.
Yes, infrastructure as a code is built using tools like Terraform, and that is very important these days because the infrastructure is not a simple 2-layer stack or 3-layer infrastructure these days. It could involve multiple layers like API gateways, load balancers, application servers, and then databases, and database primary, secondary, disaster recovery database, and so on and so forth. Right? So when something goes down, say a region goes down, or if something goes wrong, you cannot go and fix things manually, or you cannot bring up things manually. So it's very important to have these infrastructure as a code component or a Terraform script, which will be able to just immediately run and ensure that the systems are up and running again. And IAC also becomes a critical piece because whenever somebody makes a change inadvertently, manually, to the already deployed infrastructure, this IAC will ensure that that change does not impact, and it will revert that, and it will ensure that the system is matching what is the desired state, which
Okay.
will be specified in the infrastructure as code.
Got it.
So that is where the infrastructure as code plays a very important role, and the cloud infrastructure engineers are really the experts in it. But SRE engineers will also have to have a good knowledge of Terraform to fix issues if there is something if that's going wrong in production, or make some automations in production which could reduce toil.
So it was a very nice explanation for each and every
Sure, sure.
category. With the rise of AI, how is this role actually evolving?
So AI can play a very crucial role in production monitoring and resolving of incidents that could cause huge impacts. Usually, the traditional method is that we will have some automations in place which could be executed automatically or by the NOC team, or there could be some manual set of steps which could be run by the NOC team to ensure that a particular issue is resolved quickly. But how do we catch issues before they occur? So that is where monitoring using AI agents come in. So some teams have already started building what is called as SRE agents
Okay.
or SRE AI agents. Azure already has.
So what is mean by AI agent?
So an SRE agent could be thought of as a bot that is
Mm-hmm.
context aware
Okay.
of the systems which it is monitoring or
Mm-hmm.
that is being monitored, right? So an automation is a simple form of automated scripting which would just kick in when a particular scenario occurs. The AI agent is slightly more intelligent. It would be aware of multiple scenarios. Basically, it will learn
Okay.
over a period of time
Mm-hmm.
about how the traffic patterns. It would learn about CPU spikes
Mm-hmm.
of a particular system,
Mm-hmm.
how it would behave on a Sunday, how it would behave on a weekday,
Mm.
how it would behave at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And when it detects an anomaly,
Mm-mm.
right, then it would kick in automatically. So it is not a system which is pre-programmed to kick in at a particular time or at a particular instance of traffic spike or CPU or memory utilization. It could use multiple of these parameters to decide to run some automation.
Mm-hmm.
And as of today, most of the organizations that employ AI agents in site reliability engineering don't let them to be completely autonomous.
Mm-hmm.
There will be something called as a human in the loop step, where a human person will authorize or approve a particular automation to be run by the AI agent to fix an issue. So that is called as human in the loop
Mm-hmm.
system, where there is an additional safeguard as of now. But in the future, that could also be eliminated, where the AI agent will be so robust enough and clever enough and smart to ensure not to run, not to hallucinate,
Okay.
and they will do only the right actions for the appropriate kind of scenarios.
Just a doubt. After
Mhm.
hearing all your explanations, I got this doubt now. Like this role is for freshers or experienced person?
Okay.
Hmm.
Freshers also can definitely play this role,
Okay.
but there will be a huge learning curve for them
Okay.
because they come into the industry with very minimal knowledge of industry practices.
Mm-hmm.
They understand coding, they understand algorithms, they understand even reliability and availability to a fair extent these days.
Mm-hmm.
The students are very smart, so they have started digging in deeper to understand about cloud infrastructure, how cloud operates, and they have a fair understanding. But I would say it would be slightly easier for experienced engineers to get into this role because they
Mm-hmm.
know what all things can go wrong, what is the SDLC life cycle,
Mm-hmm.
what the different components mean, and so forth. But in fact, in my own team, we have a lot of college graduates
Okay.
who are being trained as SRE engineers,
Mm-hmm.
and we will be training them on multiple, domains of the software development lifecycle, such as like DevOps or cloud infrastructure, and we will also have them work alongside development teams for some time, so that they understand the whole context of development, databases, CI/CD, cloud infrastructure, and they become a wholesome or a well-rounded SRE engineer.
Professionals from which roles can aim switching to this role?
So, to be honest, there is no restriction for professionals to switch to SRE role, because
Okay.
I myself was an embedded software developer
Okay.
for several years in my career.
Mm-hmm.
And we had been doing things like disaster recovery in an embedded platform. And we had been doing chaos testing for embedded systems. So, but we never called it an SRE at that time. It was
Mm-hmm.
not called as site reliability engineering at that time. We were also developers who were writing code in C language.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my current role, there is no C language being used actually. We use a bit of Python, there is Terraform, there is Ansible. In my previous project, we used a lot of Go, right? But anybody who has a strong understanding of the fundamentals of software engineering and building robust systems that are highly available, systems that are distributed in nature, they can definitely become strong SRE engineers. But again, this is not something that cannot be learned. So anybody who has been a development engineer or a DevOps engineer or a cloud infrastructure engineer, they can definitely get into the role of an SRE engineers if they have the will to learn and scale themselves up.
I'm finding this SRE role
Mhm.
in only few companies. Like,
Mhm.
in what kind of companies will have this site reliability engineer role?
The role of site reliability engineer is very critical for companies that are building products
Okay.
and that require a very high uptime of their services for
Mm-hmm.
their customers. For example, if a company is building a website that is going to sell products and there could be users logging in from any part of the world at any point in time, they require at least 4 nines availability, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, in such a scenario, they cannot afford to have downtimes of just more than a few minutes at any point in time. So, SRE team becomes very critical here to ensure that the systems are up and running 24 bar 7.
Okay.
Right? So, that is where the role of or the SRE teams come into picture, and such companies which require really highly available services or systems will definitely employ SRE engineers to ensure their systems are highly reliable and up and running.
Nice. Okay. So we have come to the end of the episode. So thank you so much for sharing your insights. It's actually, I felt it's a lot of technical, but you explained it in a simpler
Mhm.
way. So yeah, thank you
Sure.
so much.
Thanks, Soumya. Thanks for the opportunity to help young engineers understand what the SRE role is about. I hope there will be more young engineers who will be willing to explore the role of SRE engineers in the software industry.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Soumya.
Subscribe to Beyond JD YouTube channel so that you don't miss when your favorite role is covered. Thank you.